In the lexicon of professional wrestling, some nights are merely events. They are collections of matches, a series of athletic contests that fill a 3-hour window and then fade into the statistical archives of the WWE Network. Others, however, are fulcrums upon which history pivots. They are nights seared into the collective consciousness of the universe, moments of such profound impact that they redefine eras, redraw battle lines, and leave behind a landscape altered so completely that what came before feels like a distant, half-remembered dream. Saturday, August 2nd, 2025, in the shimmering, heat-hazed cauldron of Las Vegas's Allegiant Stadium, was such a night. SummerSlam was meant to be a celebration, the biggest party of the summer, a showcase of culminating chapters. Instead, it became a crime scene. It was the night a storybook was slammed shut, its spine broken, its pages torn out and set ablaze. It was the night a hero's journey ended in a blind alley, mugged by cruel reality. It was the night of the great SummerSlam heist. This is the story of that night, a story defined not by victory, but by a legacy shattered in the blink of an eye. Number Y, the brutal overtures. Before the main event's heart-stopping tragedy, the desert air was already thick with the scent of violence and ambition. The undercard wasn't a warm-up, it was a crucible of combat that would have defined any other pay-per-view. Two matches in particular set a tone of unforgiving brutality. First, the colossus of the mid-card, the final boss, the man who had single-handedly restored the prestige of the Intercontinental Championship to God-tier status, the ring general Gunther. His reign was not measured in days, but in the bodies he had left broken in his wake. For over 800 days, he had been an immovable object, his matches a terrifying display of technical sadism. His challenger was the one force of nature many believed could finally shatter his empire, Bron Breakker. A second-generation superstar with the explosive power of a controlled demolition, Breakker was a walking, talking embodiment of unadulterated physical dominance. Their story was simple: the unstoppable force meeting the Austrian anvil. From the moment the bell rang, the match abandoned any pretense of finesse for pure, visceral impact. The sound of Gunther's chops wasn't a slap. It was a percussive crack, like a whip breaking the sound barrier, echoing through the stadium. Each one left a raw, crimson handprint on Breakker's chest. Breakker, in return, refused to be a mere chopping block. He absorbed the punishment and answered with earth-shaking power, hoisting the 300-pound champion for gut-wrenching suplexes that made the ring mat groan in protest. Michael Cole on commentary screamed, "This is not for the faint of heart. This is a prize fight in its purest form." The defining moment, what would later be ranked number 19 on the official Top 25 Moments list, came outside the ring. Gunther, methodically dissecting Breakker against the steel steps, grew arrogant. He took a moment too long to gloat, and Breakker exploded. With a primal roar, he scooped Gunther up, ran full speed, and delivered a cataclysmic power slam through the main announce table. The structure imploded into a mess of shattered monitors, splintered wood, and tangled wires. Corey Graves yelled, "That's it! The reign is over! No man gets up from that!" For a moment it seemed true. Gunther lay motionless amidst the debris. But the ring general's reign was built on more than power. It was built on an almost inhuman threshold for pain. He stirred, dragging his battered body back into the ring just before the 10 count. Breakker, smelling blood, set up for his signature spear. He charged across the ring, a human missile aimed at Gunther's heart. But it was a trap. In a feat of impossible timing and ring awareness, Gunther sidestepped at the last microsecond. As Breakker flew past, Gunther wrapped his massive arms around the challenger's neck, sinking in a standing rear-naked choke. It wasn't a flashy move. It was a desperate, primal act of survival. Breakker, with his Herculean strength, fought it, trying to buck and throw the champion off. But Gunther's grip was like a vice. He squeezed, cutting off the oxygen, his face a mask of crimson-faced determination. The stadium watched, breathless as the powerhouse's struggles became weaker, his movements more frantic, then sluggish. Finally, with a last, shuddering gasp, Bron Breaker's body went limp. The referee lifted his arm once, twice, and it dropped to the mat a third time. Gunther had won. But as his theme music played, he didn't stand tall. He collapsed to his knees, head bowed, chest a brutal tapestry of red and purple. He had retained his title, but the cost was etched onto every inch of his body. He had survived, but the aura of invincibility had been cracked. This raw display of survival was followed by an athletic spectacle of pure redemption. Women's World Champion Rhea Ripley, Mommy, the Gothic Queen of the Judgment Day, had ruled the division with an iron fist and a wicked smile. Her challenger was Bianca Belair, the EST of WWE. Their rivalry had become deeply personal, with Rhea believing Bianca's time had passed, and Bianca desperate to prove that she was still the standard-bearer. Their match was a clinic in contrasts. Rhea's oppressive strength versus Bianca's dazzling, almost physics-defying athleticism. Rhea would ground her, locking in painful submissions. Bianca would escape with a kip-up, a backflip, and a stunning drop kick. The crowd was electric, living and dying with every near fall. The climax was a sequence of pure genius. Rhea hoisted a weary Belair onto her shoulders, preparing for the riptide that had put away so many before her. But as she lifted, Bianca shifted her weight, twisted her body in midair, and somehow landed on her feet. Before Rhea could even process the counter, Bianca grabbed her, hoisted the powerful champion onto her own shoulders with a defiant scream, and hit the KOD, the kiss of death. The impact was definitive. The Allegiant Stadium erupted as the referee's hand slapped the mat for the 3 count. Bianca Belair, her eyes welling with tears, was the new Women's World Champion. Her celebration, moment number 5, was a cathartic release of a year's worth of struggle and doubt. It was the feel-good story of the night, a moment of pure, unadulterated babyface triumph. It was a beautiful, shining lie, lulling the universe into a false sense of security before the darkness descended. Number 2. The War for a Soul. The main event was more than a match for the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. It was a philosophical question posed in the language of violence. Cody Rhodes versus Sheamus. Cody, the American Nightmare, was living his dream. After finishing his story at WrestleMania, his reign had been one of a true fighting champion. He was the hero, the standard-bearer, the man who wore the weight of the company on his shoulders and smiled as he did it. His opponent, Sheamus, the Celtic warrior, was a man staring into the abyss of his own career. A decorated certain Hall of Famer, he had done it all, except for this. This one last, glorious run with the industry's top prize. His promos leading up to the match were filled with a raw, desperate intensity. This wasn't just a match for him. It was his last stand, his final chance to touch the sun before it set on his time at the top. The story was one of deep, mutual respect forged in combat, now set aside for one night in pursuit of immortality. The entrances told the tale. Sheamus walked out first. No fanfare, no theatrics. Just a grim, determined march to the ring, his eyes locked on the prize, the roars of the crowd just background noise to the storm raging within him. Then came the champion. The stadium went dark, and the opening orchestral swell of Kingdom filled the air. Pyrotechnics exploded on the stage, bathing Cody in a shower of golden sparks. He emerged, resplendent in a white and gold coat, a confident smile on his face. 60,000 people screamed in unison, "Whoa!" as he made his way to the ring, slapping hands, kissing a replica belt held by a child in the front row. He was not just a champion, he was their champion. The bell rang, and the war began. The opening minutes were a tense, respectful feeling-out process. But respect quickly evaporated, replaced by a desperate need to win. Sheamus, the brawler, began targeting Cody's torso with clubbing blows, softening him up for the 10 beats of the bodhrán. He finally trapped Cody in the ropes, and the stadium counted along with each thunderous forearm that crashed against Cody's chest. 1, 5, 10, 15. Sheamus didn't stop, pouring all his frustration and ambition into the assault until the referee had to physically pull him away. Cody, ever the resilient hero, fought from underneath. He used his speed and creativity, hitting a breathtaking disaster kick off the steel steps to Sheamus on the floor. He brought the fight back into the ring, hitting the Cody cutter for a 2 count that sent a jolt through the crowd. The match escalated into a brutal crescendo. Sheamus, his face a crimson mask after being sent into the ring post, channeled a deeper level of fury. He caught Cody on the top rope, climbing up to meet him. With a roar, he hoisted the champion onto his shoulders and delivered a devastating white noise from the second rope. "That's it! We're going to have a new champion!" Cole screamed. The referee's hand hit the mat. 1, 2... Somehow, by some miracle of will, Cody Rhodes kicked out at 2.9. The entire stadium gasped, then erupted. Sheamus stared at the referee, his eyes wide with disbelief and despair. He had hit his ultimate move, and it wasn't enough. He knew in that moment that his chance had slipped through his fingers. Seeing his opening, Cody began to stir. He fed off the energy of the crowd, rising to his feet like a phoenix. He ducked a desperate brogue kick from Sheamus and spun him around. Cross Rhodes. He held on. A second Cross Rhodes. Sheamus was dead weight, but Cody, fueled by adrenaline and destiny, hoisted him one last time. A third, emphatic Cross Rhodes. He collapsed onto Sheamus for the cover. 1, 2, 3. It was over. The stadium exploded in a cacophony of joy and relief. Cody Rhodes had survived the war. His theme music blared as the referee handed him his championship. He clutched it to his chest, his body screaming in agony but his face beaming with the pure ecstasy of victory. He climbed the turnbuckles, raising the titles high as fireworks lit up the Las Vegas sky. He found his wife, Brandy, and his mother at ringside, sharing a tearful, triumphant embrace. This was it, the storybook ending. The hero standing tall, his legacy secure, his reign continuing under a shower of confetti and adulation. For 2 beautiful, perfect minutes, all was right in the world. Number 3. The heist, and then the sound. It cut through the celebratory music like a shard of glass, a distorted, menacing synthesizer riff, the opening notes of punishment, the theme of Damian Priest. The confetti stopped falling. The fireworks ceased. A collective "no" rippled through the 60,000 fans. On the entrance ramp, backlit by a single cold blue spotlight, stood the Archer of Infamy. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't celebrating. He held the purple money in the bank briefcase in his hand, and his face was a mask of pure, predatory focus. He looked like a shark that had just smelled blood in the water. In the ring, Cody's face fell. The exhaustion, the pain, the elation, it all vanished, replaced by a single horrifying understanding. He turned just as Priest broke into a sprint, a blur of motion down the ramp. This was not a noble challenge. This was an assassination. Priest didn't even enter the ring at first. He slid in, slid out, and grabbed a steel chair. As Cody staggered towards him, Priest swung the chair with vicious intent, cracking it across Cody's already battered back. Cody crumpled. Priest wasn't done. He threw the chair aside, grabbed the heavy-duty metal briefcase, and swung it like a battering ram, catching Cody square in the side of the head. The sickening thud silenced the stadium. Priest then slid into the ring, handed the briefcase to a frantic referee, and screamed, "Cash it in! Cash it in now!" The bell rang, signaling the official start of a new match. Cody was barely conscious, a broken man on the canvas. Priest, looking down at his handiwork, slowly and deliberately dragged Cody to the center of the ring. He hooked Cody's head, lifted him with contemptuous ease, and drove him into the mat with a thunderous south-of-heaven chokeslam. He went for the cover. 1, 2. A kick-out. An impossible, defiant final act of heroism. Cody Rhodes had kicked out. The stadium exploded in a single, unified roar of hope. Could he do it? Could he survive the impossible? Priest stared down at Cody, his predatory calm momentarily replaced by furious disbelief. The hope lasted for all of 3 seconds. With a snarl, Priest grabbed Cody again. He wasn't taking any more chances. He hoisted the champion's limp body onto his shoulders, positioning him for the move taught to him by his mentor, Scott Hall. He positioned him for the end, the razor's edge. He walked a single step, then launched Cody's body high into the air, sending him crashing down onto the canvas with a final, sickening impact. Priest fell on top of him for the cover. The referee counted. 1. The stadium was silent. 2. A sea of horrified faces stared on, praying for a miracle that would not come. 3. The bell rang again. This time it sounded like a funeral toll. A ghostly silence descended upon Allegiant Stadium. The only sound was the official announcement from Samantha Irvin, her voice cracking with emotion. Here is your winner, and the new undisputed WWE Universal Champion, Damian Priest. There was no cheer. There was no booing. There was only the hollow sound of 60,000 people in collective shock. Priest was handed the titles. He didn't celebrate wildly. He simply knelt over Cody's motionless form, a cruel, satisfied smirk on his face, and raised the championships into the cold, silent air. The camera panned from the new, opportunistic champion to the heartbroken faces of Cody's family, then to the thousands of fans, many with their hands on their heads in disbelief. The show went off the air with that image, not of a triumphant hero, but of a fallen one. Not with the sound of celebration, but with the deafening hum of a dream dying. The story of SummerSlam 2025 was not written by the hero. It was stolen by the villain in the final chapter. It was the night a fighting champion's reign was ended by a predator. It was the night an entire era of hope was extinguished, leaving behind nothing but a cold, hard truth and a single, haunting epitaph: shattered legacy.